Some of you were on it. We were out from 8 o'clock in the morning, 8:30 in the morning, because we were waiting for someone.
You want to name him?
Thank you, Larry. And we actually got back about 8 o'clock at night. We were like almost 12 hours. It was awesome. We saw the planetarium. We saw a great photo exhibit at RISD Museum. And we also had the most amazing lecture with Pete Schultz about space photography and what they're doing with the planetary data center, which is where they store all the photographs down there. Or at least not all there, but one of 8 places in the United States. It was an incredible meeting. It had literally something for everybody. We ate well. The bus ride was great. We had a good time. So if you missed out on that one, I'm sorry, because it was one of the best we've had in a long time. Upcoming meetings, we're going to have next month in this room, hopefully it won't be 100 degrees, we're going to have our Photographica meeting, which is your favorite piece of Photographica. It's kind of a giant show and tell where you bring in stuff, we set up tables in this room. And it's a very different meeting from what we normally do. We basically set up tables and you discuss what it is in your collection, why you brought it in, why you wanted to show it to us. And this is one of our meetings that we have a full lunch. It will be Italian. So we're going to do that again. So please come next month. It's the 4th, I believe. December 4th. 7th? 2. December 2nd. Sorry. Thank you. So what happens when you're winging it.
Okay.
Okay. Today we're going to see Jim Dow. And I'm going to have Whitey introduce Jim. He knows him, personal neighbor, right? Somebody you know?
Neighbor of the school.
Neighbor of the school. Neighbor of the school. So, without further ado, Whitey,
Okay,
you're
thanks.
up.
Thanks. Hi, folks. I'm Whitey Moran. For years, 34 in fact, I taught at Belmont Hill School. I taught art. And as part of that, since 1988, we've run a gallery. I saw some of Jim Dow's photographs of baseball parks in a national magazine, and I got really excited. It turned out we have a mutual friend. One of my colleagues knew Jim well, and it turned out Jim lived near the school. So that was too good to pass up, and I convinced him to have a show at the gallery, and it was an astounding event. It was, I mean, I remember walking into one alcove and being surrounded by a ballpark. A print that went down one wall, across another wall, and on a third wall. So I could basically feel like I was standing in the ballpark. It was only later that I realized Jim shot it by pencil. This wasn't just a digital image. They're all scanned and digitized these days and printed out really large. But the point is, traditional photography was important to him. Well, that got to my heart because that's what I really like. Anyway, I followed his work through the American Studies, through the stuff that's shown up in the Cordova Museum, the stuff that's gone all across the United States and Canada about the baseball parks, and I couldn't resist asking him to come and talk to us about his work today. So, no further ado, Jim Dow.
So that's me in the club taking a light reading, and this is the photograph that you see over there on the right. The key, and probably as people interested in photographic history, you all do a lot of sort of trying to figure out if something's original or genuine or whatever, whether it's a device or a picture or whatever it might be. The key to seeing whether I had printed this picture was that I used to dry the pictures by putting clips in each corner with a wet print back to back, 2 wet prints back to back, hung up with 4 clips, and they would dry flat. Probably there's some other people in the room who've done that trick, right? It's a way to get out of having to use heat or anything to dry the image. So,
when was the image taken during the
image was, the original image was taken in 1936. And the negative, great question, the negative belonged to Walker Evans, but it actually belongs to the government. Because he did it as part of the Farm Security. Exactly. Farm Security Administration.
Right.
So the negative, the original negative, in fact, sits in the Library of Congress. There's the picture, okay? And so now we can see it relatively big. So in 1970, 1971, I was able to take that negative along with another 20 or 30 of his negatives from the Library of Congress to my home in Belmont, to my darkroom, and make a series of prints. And I made prints that ultimately became an exhibition. Houses. It was really a piece of luck. There's a woman, these are in Elgin and Aurora, Illinois, and there's a wonderful woman, Rosemary Thornton, who has done devoted 20 years to researching these, and her notes, her field notes, are in the Elgin Public Library. I didn't know that until I called the library asking, is there anything, because the magazine that sent me to do this just said, go photograph these houses. I didn't know how to find them. And she had copious notes with little pictures.
Right, the fellow who wrote The Christmas Story, he wrote some books, and he actually mentions one of the homes coming into where he,
Oh, really?
as part of the
Right.
story he was
Yeah.
telling. And I guess at that time, it took place in the Indiana, Illinois border, the steel town there.
Right, that would be very common, that
Yeah.
area, yeah.
And I think one of our members lives in one in Newton, Ralph left, I think. Is Ralph?
May I give you my card?
Yeah.
Where? Is he here?
We'll
Here, please.
keep you in
Did
touch.
you have live drawings that you could compare the house in the actual?
I did have some. But here,
Whole
let me
catalog.
give you this.
Surgeon.
The whole catalog of Sears houses is
online.
online from Sears archives. You can get the original,
But the drawings, what you don't have are pictures of the houses
Assembled,
as they are today.
yeah.
Yes.
I might add in for a little local color, you said there was one of those houses in Aurora and Elgin, Illinois.
Yes.
One of the most famous, if probably not the most famous, interurban car line, trolley cars that ran out in the
Yep.
country, was the Chicago, Aurora, and Elgin.
And that those
They're probably in
stations,
the same era.
the stations are still there.
Yes.
It's now a regular train,
Commuter train.
but the stations are still there. Yeah.
Anyway, that's-
They're great. They're wonderful towns.
There's one of those cars in a museum in Iowa called the Old Treasures.
Mm.
They have a Chicago, Aurora, and Elgin
Mm.
interurban car, an operating edition, go for a ride down there.
Oh, nice.
1 mile loop of track. It doesn't reach its normal 80 miles an hour. 1 mile loop.
Yeah, can you imagine one of our trolley cars going 80 miles an hour? The green line going 80 miles an hour. This is the Collectors Club, which is actually stamp collectors.
Huh.
So it's a clubhouse totally full of stamp collecting stuff. This is a carrito that stays in place, but it opens at 6 at night and stays until 6 in the morning. So it's open just at night. It's outside a disco.
And where? Where?
This one is in Paraná, Argentina, which is in the north of Argentina. So warm, semi-tropical area.
So you go around the world doing your photographs?
I go wherever I can get funding to go. So sometimes the funding comes from a commission. Sometimes it comes from just raising my own money. Usually I go to places where I have friends, so I travel with the friends. Because doing this alone with a view camera at night wouldn't work so well.
what sort of film are you using?
I use a Kodak 160. What's it called? Portrait.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and we're living in the good old days, like the country song goes, because the film is, even though the film is hard to get now in some cases, it's so good. It's been researched so well that you can just cook it. Negative film I'm talking about. You can just cook it. You can make an exposure for the shadows, and then you can get it back in the scanning, and it's just phenomenal. We are in the good old days as far as that. This is the Downtown Association, which is a luncheon club for Wall Street types. So again, thinking about serving 6,000 Wall Street traders in half an hour. Because they don't want to get back and trade. Here's another one of the houses. Way out in the countryside in central California at night. So this is, for instance, thinking about film, this is a 20-minute exposure.
Whoa. It's long.
The Explorers Club, which has shrunken heads and all kinds of stuff in it. Lowell Thomas used to lecture there.
So are you using mostly 8 by 10?
All 8 by 10. All of this is 8 by 10. So if we were looking at the prints would either be contact prints or now digitally sort of fake contact prints.
Right.
Or they'd be enlargements about 16 by 20 to 2024. Although, as Whitey said, with that sort of film stock, you can go up to 10 feet high
Right.
and get a reasonable print. So this is Betty Boop. The Friars Club, which you know, the Friars Club roasts. And these houses are just, they're so wonderful. They're so idiosyncratic, and we've all seen, the designs are not particularly unique. You can go around neighborhoods here and see lots of houses that look like this, and they may or might not be Sears houses. But they're just wonderful. They've lasted for, in some cases, 100 years. Wonderful mural on a taco truck. This is in North Carolina. Some of the small towns in North Carolina now are almost completely Spanish-speaking. The number of people who've come to the States to work in the various industries in North Carolina, agriculture and manufacturing. The Grolier Club, which is a club devoted to collecting first editions of books. Note this house. This is, you'll see, these houses are on one street, and they were the demonstrator houses for the Sears company.
So it's in Illinois?
Hmm?
This is in Illinois?
These are all the Sears houses that I've done so far are in either Elgin or Aurora.
Okay.
So I haven't been able to get out beyond that yet. This is a taco store, a taco shop in Puebla in Mexico. The owner is a 100-year-old Iraqi.
Arabic.
And so the tacos are served on a pita. They're basically a roll-up. And they're spectacular. I happen to love tacos in all forms. But this is the Harvard Club.
So you always wait for when there are no people around?
Yeah, just because, for two reasons. First of all, because it's an intrusion to do the people. And second of all, because, and very often people don't want to be photographed, particularly in the private situations.
Yeah.
And second of all, if the person becomes prominent in it, then it changes into something else. It's more like a portrait.
Mm-hmm.
And that I want to concentrate on the object or the space. So this house is next to the house we just saw. This is another carrito, open all night. Now there are people in there,
Oh,
you
I
can
see, yeah.
but this was a 15-minute exposure.
Huh.
You have ghosts.
You have all sorts of ghosts, yeah. There's a India House, which is another downtown club in New York. And there's the third one. So they're all 1, 2, 3, all right next to each other.
Hey, the ones we've seen so far, they all have very steep peak entrance routes.
Yeah,
Is that a commonality, or that just
I'm wondering.
sampling work?
That seems to be primarily one model.
Yeah, it's one
No,
more.
there was
But no,
another-
but other ones, no, the other ones were pitched pretty much consistent with that. I'm wondering whether it's an issue of where it is with severe winters.
Well, it could have been the architect's
Yeah.
style too.
Because you certainly, if you go online and look at the overall catalog, there are houses that are definitely less
The
busy.
actual roof isn't that steep, it's only that gable on the,
Right.
where the entry style.
Right. And there's the gable repeated in it.
Yep.
Now, this is my friend that I often travel with. There's a funny story here. The way these taco trucks often work is that there's the gorgeous daughter takes the orders on the left. The dad makes the tacos, and the mom takes the money and hands you the tacos. So there's two windows. Well, this one was exactly like that, and there was a gorgeous daughter, and my friend said to me, do you mind if I just sit here? And he just sat there and stared through 2 5-minute exposures at this young woman who was on the other side of the window. The Knickerbocker Club, which again, there's a few of these clubs that are primarily just clubs of social class. They're not clubs of a common interest like, say, books or cards or whatever. And the Knickerbocker Club is one of them.
And what's your exposure time and what are you using for light?
This is available light, and this was probably about 5 minutes. Usually I shoot at the small aperture, so and reciprocity comes in, so that's why the exposures are so long.
Yeah.
But also I want to make sure that there's enough exposure in the shadow areas, or in this case, in the dark of the door, that there's a color in it.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas these are, you know, like a second to 2 seconds. And some of the trucks are just gorgeous objects. This is one of the most idiosyncratic of the clubs. This is the Leash Club, which is a club that broke off from the New York Kennel Club, and it's a dog breed, you know, dog breeding club.
Oh, geez, look at this.
That was not so steep.
Right. This is one of the smaller ones, yeah. There are a lot of taco buses now that people buy disused buses from the city or companies and fix them up, and very often, like in this case, this one's really established, so the bus just sits there.
Have you gone into Boston to photograph any of the taco trucks in there?
There really aren't any taco trucks in Boston that I've found. There are food trucks for sure, but I'm really interested in specifically the taco ones. There's like 2 taco trucks in Boston that I've found, and they're both fairly plain. You know, they're just trucks and without any decoration. And of course, it's all by city. One of the reasons I went to do the pictures of the Sears houses was it was a way of getting a free trip to Chicago to go look for taco trucks. In Chicago, I discovered 2 things. I discovered
Very high
the
Mexican.
Sears houses are really great.
Yeah.
There's a huge Mexican population in Chicago and Metro Chicago, but there are no taco trucks because there's a city regulation against it.
Oh.
So I didn't see a single taco truck in the week I was there. This is the Links Club, which is a golf. It's a golf club without a golf course in Midtown Manhattan.
No grass growing, but everything else is
Yeah.
green.
That really, real seriously
No,
does.
right.
Thinking about golf, maybe you're right. No offense to any golfers. I played for a long time, but boy, what a game. Some of the houses, I mean, this is beautiful. And I presume, for instance, that thing on the chimney was some kind of add-on. And then I looked at the original drawing.
That's how it was?
That's how it was. You know, you'd think.
Jeez, yeah.
That's
So the houses are
artsy.
much more, they're much more complex than they first appear. And I think what will be really interesting, if I can ever get this done, is this thing of comparing the way they originally were to what's happened.